Ancient forests whisper secrets older than the gods themselves. We are unmasking the nymphs, the elusive spirits of nature and water from Greek mythology, beings far more complex than simple mythical maidens. By the end of this journey, you will understand how to recognize their presence in the natural world around you. We will uncover why a hamadryad's life is tied to a single tree, and what truly happens when a mortal encounters a Naiad's sacred spring. What part of the wild, untamed world calls to you most deeply? To truly understand these beings, we must first strip away the modern simplification of them as mere mythical maidens. A nymph is, at its core, the living soul of a place. Think of that sudden chill in a deep forest grove, the inexplicable shimmer on a secluded pond at noon, or the way a particular mountain spring seems to sing a silent song. That sensation is the essence of a nymph. They are not omnipotent gods ruling from Olympus, nor are they mortal women living and dying within a human lifespan. They exist in a fascinating middle ground as semi-divine spirits. This means they possess powers far beyond humanity and are effectively immortal, yet their existence is intrinsically, physically tied to a specific element of the wild. They are the consciousness of a crashing waterfall, the breath of a whispering meadow, the memory held within an ancient, gnarled oak. For the ancient Greeks, this was not a charming story, it was a fundamental part of their reality. Every stream had its Naiad, every tree its Dryad, and every cave its echo. To walk through the world was to walk through the homes of countless invisible, powerful beings. Their presence made the landscape sacred, turning a simple act like drinking from a spring into a potential communion or a grave trespass. So when you feel a deep, quiet pull from a wild place, you are not just appreciating its beauty. You are sensing the resident spirit, the nymph who is that place itself. Their origins are as old and deep as the earth itself. To trace the family tree of a nymph is to trace the very creation of the world in Greek myth. Their lineage is not a single, neat line, but a sprawling network connecting them to the most fundamental forces of existence. The most ancient and revered nymphs are born directly from the primordials, the first beings to emerge from the formless void. They are the daughters of Gaia, the Earth Mother, making them sisters to the mountains and the very soil. Others spring from Ouranos, the starry sky, connecting their essence to the rain that falls from the heavens. This primordial parentage means these nymphs are not merely spirits in nature. They are pieces of nature itself, conscious fragments of the world's raw, original body. Later generations arise from the great gods who shaped the cosmos. Zeus, the king of the gods, fathered many nymphs, often with lesser goddesses, tying their existence to the ruling order of Olympus. But perhaps the most prolific parent of nymphs was Oceanid, the great encircling river that the Greeks believed was the source of all fresh water. From him and his sister wife Tethys came the vast family of the Oceanids, 3,000 spirits of the world's rivers, streams, and springs. Their lineage is a map of the world's water. This complex genealogy is not just a list of names. It explains everything about a nymph's power and her limitations. A nymph born from a specific river god is that river. Her life is its flow, her mood its clarity. A Dryad born from the earth of a specific grove is bound to that soil. Their family ties physically root them to their domain, making them both powerful and profoundly vulnerable. They are the living legacy of the gods, the immortal children of the elements, and their story is written in the landscape we walk through every day. This deep connection to place is precisely why the ancient Greeks saw not one kind of nymph, but a whole world of them. They mapped the spirit realm by observing the wild landscape itself. Every rustling leaf and babbling brook had its own specific guardian. The most fundamental division lies between the spirits of the land and the spirits of the water. Land nymphs or epimoliads are the shepherdesses of the high mountain pastures and the protectors of flocks. They watch over the fertile soil and the creatures that graze upon it. Then there are the Oreids, the spirits of the mountains and grottos. When you stand on a windy cliff face and feel a powerful, untamed presence, you are likely in the domain of an Oreid. But perhaps the most famous of the land spirits are the Dryads. These are the nymphs of the trees, and they are so deeply bound to their individual oak or ash that to harm the tree is to harm the nymph herself. A specific, powerful type of Dryad is the Hamadryad. She is not merely a spirit living in a tree, she is the tree. Her life force and the tree's sap are one and the same, meaning if the tree is cut down, the Hamadryad dies with it. This relationship transforms an ancient forest from a collection of trees into a sacred, living community. Meanwhile, the realm of water holds its own diverse families. The Naiads preside over the fresh waters of the world. They are the lifeblood of the landscape, found in every babbling brook, quiet pond, and rushing river. Their close cousins, the Oceanids, are the 3,000 daughters of Oceanus, and they govern the vast, encircling salt water that the Greeks believed was the source of all earthly rivers. Then there are the Nereids, the 50 daughters of the sea god Nereus, who dance in the Mediterranean's sun-dappled waves. Each classification is a key to understanding the personality of a place. A Naiad spring feels different from an Oceanid shore, just as an Oreid's mountain peak holds a different energy than a Dryad's forest. Knowing their names is the first step to recognizing their unique voices in the whisper of the wild. Of all the freshwater spirits, the Naiads hold a special, intimate power. While their Oceanid cousins rule the vast, unknowable sea, the Naiads are the spirits of the water we live beside, the water we drink. They inhabit every river that carves through a valley, every stream that trickles down a mountainside, every still pond mirroring the sky, and every natural spring that bubbles up from the earth. Their domain is the lifeblood of the land itself, and this gives them a unique role that touches every aspect of mortal existence. A Naiad is not just a spirit in the water, she is the consciousness of that specific body of water. Her mood is reflected in its flow. A joyful Naiad might manifest as a clear, singing brook, while a slighted one could see her waters run muddy and slow. This connection makes them deeply local deities, tied to a single spring or a particular stretch of river, known and revered by the communities that depend on them. For the ancient Greeks, this relationship was a matter of survival and sanctity. To pollute a spring was not merely an ecological misstep, it was a direct insult to the Naiad who was that spring. To drink from it without an offering was to take a gift without giving thanks. This reverence formed the heart of their local cults. Small shrines, often just a simple stone altar or a woven garland of flowers, would be placed near a Naiad spring. Travelers would pause there to leave a small libation of wine, honey, or a coin, asking for safe passage and the Naiad's blessing. Villages would depend on her for clean water, for the fertility of their fields, and for the health of their children. This is where their role in purification rituals becomes profound. Water from a sacred spring, believed to be infused with the Naiad's own divine essence, was not just physically clean, it was spiritually pure. It was used to wash the hands before prayers, to cleanse a new home, or to purify someone who had encountered death or misfortune. The Naiad, through her water, provided a bridge between the mundane and the holy, washing away spiritual stain and restoring balance. So the next time you take a drink of cool, clear water, or pause by a quiet stream, consider the ancient bond that once existed between humanity and the conscious, living spirit of that place. While the Naiads governed the intimate freshwater of the mainland, their 3,000 sisters, the Oceanids, held dominion over a far grander and more mysterious realm. These were the daughters of the Titans Oceanus and Tethys, born from the vast, encircling river that the ancient Greeks believed was the source of all the world's waters. Unlike the local Naiad tied to her single spring, the Oceanids represented the sea in its totality, an immense and collective consciousness of the deep. Their domain was not a single place, but the very boundary of the world itself, the saltwater expanse that both connected and separated all lands. Their power flowed through every current, every tide, and every distant shore, making them the ultimate spirits of maritime resources, from the fish that fed nations to the trade routes that built empires. As a collective, they were often depicted as a radiant chorus dancing in the waves, their voices the sound of the surf, their movements the rhythm of the tides. This collective nature highlights a profound truth about the ancient Greek worldview. The sea itself was not a single entity, but a complex, living community of countless divine wills. Yet from this great chorus, certain individual Oceanids rose to profound prominence, their personal stories forever altering the course of mythology. The most formidable of these was Styx, the spirit of the river that formed the sacred boundary of the underworld. Her name became the unbreakable oath of the gods themselves, for to swear by Styx was a vow that could never be taken back. Then there was Metis, the Oceanid of wise counsel and deep thought. She was the first wife of Zeus, and it was prophesied that her children would be incredibly powerful. To prevent a son from overthrowing him, Zeus swallowed Metis whole, only for her wisdom to become a part of him forever, later giving birth to Athena from his own head. These powerful individuals show that the Oceanids were far more than anonymous sea maidens. They were foundational forces of cosmic order, wisdom, and the most solemn divine promises. Their legacy is the vast, untamed ocean itself, a reminder that even the greatest powers have their origins in the deep, collective soul of the world. Yet from that vast chorus of the deep emerged another family of sea spirits, known for their gentle nature and direct connection to human lives. The Nereids, the 50 daughters of the wise old sea god Nereus and the Oceanid Doris, were the benevolent nymphs of the Mediterranean sunlit waters. Unlike the formidable and distant Oceanids, the Nereids were celebrated as friendly guides and protectors of sailors and fishermen. They were the calm sea after a storm, the friendly dolphin racing alongside a ship, the guiding light on a moonless night. Their domain was the coastline and the sheltered, azure waters of the Aegean and Ionian seas, the very heart of ancient Greek life and travel. They personified the sea's more welcoming face, its ability to grant safe passage and bounty. Often depicted riding on the backs of dolphins or seahorses, their joyful dances in the waves were a sign of fair weather and divine favor. Their collective presence was a comfort to anyone setting out on the unpredictable waters, a promise that they were not entirely alone. The most famous of these 50 sisters was Thetis, a Nereid whose story is woven into the very fabric of Greek epic. Her kindness and destiny placed her at the center of one of mythology's greatest conflicts. It was Thetis who raised the god Hephaestus after he was cast from Olympus, and it was Thetis whom both Zeus and Poseidon once sought to marry, until a prophecy revealed her son would become greater than his father. To avoid this fate, she was wed to a mortal king, Peleus, and their union produced the greatest of the Greek heroes, Achilles. It was Thetis, the loving sea nymph mother, who tried to make her infant son immortal by dipping him in the sacred river Styx, and it was she who, throughout the Trojan War, ascended to Olympus to beg the gods to protect her mortal son. Her story transforms the Nereids from abstract spirits into relatable figures, embodying the deep, protective love of a mother and the profound grief that comes from a bond between the immortal and the mortal. They remind us that even the most powerful forces of nature can hold compassion within their depths, offering aid and solace to those who respect their domain. High in the thin, crisp air where eagles nest and silence reigns, the Oreids hold their solitary watch. These spirits of the mountains and grottos embody the raw, untamed power of the high places. Their presence is felt in the echoing silence of a deep cave, the sheer face of a wind-scoured cliff, and the breathtaking expanse of a sunlit peak. Unlike the communal Nereids or the local Naiads, the Oreid is often a creature of profound solitude. Her domain is one of immense space and stark beauty, where a single figure standing against the sky is a powerful and common image. This isolation shapes their character, making them appear more aloof, more wild, and fiercely independent. They are the essence of the mountain itself, patient, ancient, and unyielding. To encounter an Oread is to stand in the presence of the earth's very bones. While their homes are often remote, they are not entirely alone. The wild, untamed spaces of the mountain are also the favored playground of other beings, most notably the god Pan and his riotous companions, the satyrs. Pan, with his goat legs and primal pipes, is a spirit of the same raw nature, and his music is one of the few things that can draw the solitary Oreads from their hidden grottos. The sound of his syrinx or panpipes, echoing through the valleys, can compel them to dance, their movements as fluid as a rock slide, as graceful as a cloud drifting past a summit. The satyrs, with their boundless energy and mischievous nature, are often depicted chasing after these mountain nymphs, though an Oread is far from an easy catch. She can vanish into a crevice or become one with the mist on a moment's notice. These interactions are not gentle courtships, but a fundamental clash and harmony of natural forces, the chaotic, fertile energy of the satyr meeting the enduring, solid strength of the Oread. Their dynamic plays out in the very landscape. The sudden, playful gust of wind that scatters autumn leaves is the breath of a satyr, while the steadfast cliff that redirects that wind is the enduring will of the Oread. They represent two inseparable sides of the wild world, one of constant motion and the other of eternal stillness. But beneath the shadow of those silent mountains lies another kingdom, one of rustling leaves and dappled sunlight. This is the realm of the Dryads, the spirits of the forest, whose very existence is a hymn to the life of trees. While the Oreads embody the enduring stone of the peaks, the Dryads represent the living, breathing, and ultimately mortal heart of the woods. They are the gentle presence you feel in a sunlit grove, the whisper of leaves that seems to carry a voice. Every oak, every willow, every ancient pine is home to one of these beings. A Dryad is the soul of her tree, but the nature of that bond is where a profound and crucial distinction lies. Most Dryads are free spirits of the woodland. They can move from tree to tree, dance through the forest, and are the collective consciousness of the grove itself. They care for the trees as a community, their laughter the sound of rustling branches in the wind. To harm the forest is to anger them, but their own life is not extinguished by the loss of a single tree. Their power is distributed, their spirit shared among the many. Yet within this sisterhood exists a spirit with a far more intimate and tragic connection. She is the Hamadryad. Unlike her more mobile kin, a Hamadryad does not merely inhabit a tree, she is the tree. From the moment of her birth, her life force is irrevocably tied to one specific individual tree. Her spirit is in its roots, her breath in its leaves, her heartbeat the slow, steady pulse of sap rising and falling with the seasons. She cannot wander, she cannot leave. Her entire world is the soil around her roots and the sky above her branches. This bond is both her power and her profound vulnerability. It makes her the most sacred guardian of that single life, but it also means her fate is sealed with its. The death of the tree is the death of the Hamadryad. This is not a metaphorical end, it is a physical and spiritual dissolution. Ancient poets wrote of the agonized cry of a Hamadryad echoing through the woods when her tree was struck by an axe, a sound of pure, existential pain as her very being unraveled. For this reason, the ancient Greeks regarded certain trees, especially the most ancient and majestic oaks, with a kind of holy dread. To cut one down was not just logging, it was an act akin to murder, the killing of a divine being. This sacred connection forces us to see the natural world not as a collection of resources, but as a community of individual, conscious lives. The tragedy of the Hamadryad is the ultimate lesson in consequence, a reminder that some bonds are so deep that to break one is to destroy an entire world. That profound bond between spirit and tree finds its most primal expression in the story of the Melii. These were no ordinary Dryads. Their origin was one of violence and cosmic retribution, born not from a gentle river god, but from the blood of the sky itself. In the earliest days of the gods, the Titan Cronus overthrew his father, Uranus, the sky. When Cronus wounded Uranus, drops of his divine blood fell upon the earth, upon Gaia, the mother of all. And from that sacred soil, fertilized by the blood of the primordial sky, the Melii sprang forth fully formed. They were the nymphs of the ash tree, their very essence forged in an act of rebellion that shaped the cosmos. Their connection to the ash was absolute, for the first ash trees were said to have grown from the very ground that received Uranus's blood. This made the Melii more than just tree spirits. They were living remnants of a celestial war, their roots reaching deep into the world's oldest wounds. Their wood was therefore incredibly powerful, imbued with a raw, primal strength that echoed their violent birth. It was from the hard, unyielding wood of the ash tree, the domain of the Melii, that the first humans were fashioned. According to the poet Hesiod, it was the race of the Bronze Age, created by the gods as a third generation of humanity. These bronze men were formidable and fearsome, their very spears and armor crafted from the same substance as their souls. And it was the Melii who were tasked with their care. These ash tree nymphs acted as the nurses and protectors of this fierce, nascent humanity, nurturing them in the wild woodlands just as they nurtured their own sacred trees. Can you picture it, the first bronze-clad warriors, learning to walk in the dappled light of an ash grove, guided and watched over by the very spirits of the wood? The Melii provided their sustenance, the nymph sacred trees offering not just shelter, but also the wood for their weapons and the fruit that may have fed them. This myth creates a profound and unsettling link. The very first humans of this age were born from the same cosmic event as the nymphs who raised them, both born of blood and earth. It suggests that humanity's inherent strength and its capacity for violence is woven into our oldest stories, nurtured by the wild itself. The Age of Bronze was a time of constant war, and its end came when these violent humans destroyed themselves. The ash tree nymphs, the Melii, who had nurtured their growth, would have then witnessed their complete destruction, a silent, ancient audience to the folly of the very beings they helped bring into the world. Their story is a haunting reminder that creation and destruction often grow from the same deep, bloody root. Beyond the great ash groves of the Melii, the wild world softens into meadows and sheltered valleys, places guarded by spirits of a gentler, yet no less vital, nature. Here, the Limoniads preside over the sun-drenched meadows and the very flowers that bloom within them. These are the nymphs of the grassy plains, their essence tied to the lush, green life that springs up after the rains. A Limoniad is the spirit of abundance and fragile beauty, her presence felt in the delicate scent of wild thyme underfoot and the vibrant carpet of poppies and clover. She is the reason a meadow feels so alive, so teeming with a quiet, joyful energy. Her domain is one of open space and nourishing growth, a crucial landscape for the flocks that were the lifeblood of ancient communities. To walk through a field buzzing with bees and dancing with butterflies is to walk through her home, and to pick a flower without a thought is to take a piece of her world. In the dappled shade at the edge of such a meadow, where the forest begins to rise, you might find the Napia. These are the shy nymphs of the wooded valleys and the quiet, sheltered glens. While the Oreids rule the high, windswept peaks, the Napia embody the quiet intimacy of the dell. Theirs is a world of soft moss, trickling streams hidden by ferns, and sunlight filtering through a dense canopy. They are the spirits of solitude and peaceful reflection, rarely seen but often sensed as a sudden, profound quiet that falls over a secluded spot. They do not dance in raging storms like their mountain cousins, but in the gentle rustle of leaves and the soft patterns of light and shadow that play upon the forest floor. Their presence invites a different kind of reverence, one of quiet observation and a deep appreciation for the world's hidden, peaceful corners. Even more specific are the Anthausi, the nymphs who are the very life within a flower. While a limoniad is the spirit of the whole meadow, an anthousai is the soul of a single rose, a lone lily, or a patch of violets. Her life is as fleeting as the blossom she inhabits, born with the bud and fading as the petals wilt. This connection makes her a spirit of poignant, transient beauty, a reminder that the most exquisite things are often the most temporary. And then there are the Oceanids, the nymphs of the deep, pastoral valleys where shepherds would graze their flocks. An Oceanid is the spirit of that specific, sheltered basin, the guardian of the grass that feeds the sheep and the cool, still air of the late afternoon. She is a figure of pastoral peace, her song the distant sound of a shepherd's pipe echoing off the valley walls. Each of these lesser-known nymphs completes the sacred map of the wild. They prove that no part of the natural world was considered empty or without consciousness. From the grandest mountain to the smallest flower, every element had its resident spirit, its own unique voice in the great, breathing tapestry of the earth. To know their names is to recover an ancient way of seeing, one where every landscape is alive and every walk through nature is a conversation. These spirits of the wild are not just background figures in mythology, they are central players in some of its most gripping and tragic tales. Their interactions with gods and heroes reveal the raw, unpredictable power of nature when it confronts human ambition. Take the story of Hylas, a beautiful youth who sailed with the hero Jason on his quest for the Golden Fleece. When their ship, the Argo, stopped for fresh water, Hylas went into a secluded forest with a bronze water jar. He found a spring of breathtaking clarity, a place humming with a vibrant, palpable energy. This was the sacred domain of a Naiad. The moment she saw his reflection upon her water's surface, she was overcome with desire. In an instant, her white arm shot up from the depths, coiled around his neck, and pulled him down into the spring. Hylas vanished without a trace, his cry swallowed by the water. His companions, the mighty Argonauts, searched for him in vain, calling his name until the woods echoed with their grief. But the Naiad had taken him to her underwater home, not to harm him, but to keep him with her forever. The hero Hercules, Hylas's close friend, never found him, and the quest was forever marked by this loss. This is not a story of a monster, but of a nature spirit acting on her own primal instincts. The Naiad saw something beautiful, and, bound to her spring, she took it for herself, utterly indifferent to the epic human journey she had just derailed. Her actions show that the wild does not care for our plans, it follows its own deep and often possessive laws. Then there is the tale of Oreithea, an Athenian princess who was dancing by the river when the north wind Boreas saw her. He was a primal force of winter, a god of the chilling gale, and he desired her. He did not court her. He descended in a furious blast, his winds whipping the river into a frenzy, and he simply snatched her up, carrying her off to his northern home. There she became his bride and the mother of his children, including the winged brothers who would fight alongside Jason. This story blurs the line between abduction and a brutal, natural union. The wind takes what it wants, and the nymph, in this case a princess associated with the river's edge, is swept into a destiny far from the human world. She becomes a part of the storm itself, but perhaps the most poignant story of all is the transformation of Daphne. She was a Naiad, a devotee of the goddess Artemis who cherished her independence above all else. When the god Apollo, inflamed by a spiteful arrow from Eros, became obsessed with her, he began to chase her through the woods. Daphne ran for her life, her terror growing as his divine speed overtook her. With his breath upon her neck, she cried out to her father, a river god, for help. In that moment of desperation, he answered, her skin hardened into bark, her hair lengthened into leaves, her arms stretched into branches. Where the nymph once stood, there now grew a laurel tree. Apollo, arriving too late, could only embrace the new tree's trunk, declaring the laurel his sacred tree forever. This is the ultimate act of a nymph asserting her will. Faced with an inescapable divine power, Daphne chose to cease being a pursued woman and become instead an untouchable part of the wild. She escaped violation by becoming nature itself. Each of these stories carries a powerful warning. They teach that the beauty of the wild is not passive. To desire it, to pursue it without respect, is to risk being consumed by it, swept away by it, or forever witnessing it transform just beyond your grasp. The nymphs in their most famous myths are living expressions of this fundamental truth. This magnetic allure of the nymphs was a double-edged sword, a source of both divine inspiration and mortal peril. Their beauty was not a passive quality. It was an active, captivating force that could enchant gods and men alike, often with unpredictable and dangerous results. The very essence that made them so desirable, their untamed, elemental nature, also made them impossible to truly possess. For every story of a god winning a nymph's favor, there is another where that same allure leads to obsession, conflict, and ruin. The king of the gods himself, Zeus, was famously susceptible to the charms of nymphs. His numerous unions with them were not just romantic escapades, they were acts of weaving the divine lineage directly into the fabric of the land. A nymph like Aegina, for instance, bore him a son who became a king, and the island itself was named after her, forever marking the territory with the story of Zeus's desire. Yet these divine attentions were not always gentle. When the nymph Callisto, a companion of Artemis, caught the eye of Zeus, he disguised himself to approach her. Their union led to a pregnancy, and when Artemis discovered the broken vow of chastity, the goddess banished her. Callisto's story spiraled into further tragedy, culminating in her transformation into a bear and later placed among the stars. Her beauty attracted the highest god, but it also shattered her life and identity, a testament to the catastrophic price a nymph could pay for being desired by a power she could not refuse. This pattern repeats with mortals who dared to cross the invisible boundaries surrounding these spirits. The story of the hunter Actaeon is perhaps the most chilling example. While wandering in the forest, he accidentally stumbled upon the grotto, where the goddess Artemis and her attendant nymphs were bathing. It was a sacred, private space, a moment of divine intimacy. For the crime of merely seeing what was forbidden, Artemis enacted a brutal punishment. She transformed Actaeon into a stag. In an instant, the hunter became the hunted. His own hounds, no longer recognizing their master, turned on him and tore him to pieces. The nymphs present were not the victims here. They were the offended party, their sanctity violated by a mortal's gaze. Actaeon's fate was a dire warning. The beauty of the nymphs and their divine companions was not for mortal eyes, and to witness it uninvited was to invite self-destruction. This is the core of their danger. Their allure is a sacred force, and to approach it with arrogance, lust, or simple carelessness is to trigger a defense mechanism as fierce and unforgiving as nature itself. A nymph spring might offer healing, but to drink from it without permission was to risk madness or a wasting sickness. A nymph's grove might provide shelter, but to harm a single branch was to invite a curse upon your lineage. Their beauty was the bait in a trap set by the wild, a lesson that desire, when untempered by respect, leads only to a fall. Their complex allure inevitably drew them into the very heart of divine politics on Mount Olympus. Far from being mere inhabitants of the wild, nymphs became essential pillars of the cosmic order, their lives intertwined with the great gods as consorts, mothers, and devoted attendants. As consorts, they offered the gods a connection to the raw, untamed earth that their marble halls on Olympus could not provide. These unions were more than fleeting romances. They were strategic mergers of power, weaving the authority of the gods directly into the landscape. When Zeus took the Oceanid Medes as his first wife, he was not just taking a bride, he was absorbing the very spirit of wise counsel into his being. Their daughter, Athena, goddess of wisdom and war, was born directly from this union, springing from Zeus's own head. The blood of a nymph, an Oceanid, flowed in the veins of one of the most revered Olympians, cementing the nymph's role as foundational to the pantheon itself. Similarly, the Nereid Thetis, though married to a mortal, was once pursued by both Zeus and Poseidon. They withdrew only upon learning the prophecy that her son would surpass his father, a testament to the immense power they sensed within her lineage. These relationships show that the gods recognized the nymphs not as lesser beings, but as sources of primal power and legitimacy whose children could shape the future of the cosmos. Beyond these grand unions, nymphs served as the dedicated handmaidens of specific deities, becoming the living extension of a god's will in the natural world. The virgin goddess Artemis, who roamed the wilds with her band of nymph companions, offers the clearest example. These nymphs were not just her followers, they were her sacred retinue, sworn to the same vow of chastity and independence. They joined her in the hunt, guarded her secluded groves, and attended her in sacred springs. They were the perfect attendants for a goddess of the untamed, because they were the untamed itself. To serve Artemis was to live in a state of perfect harmony with her domain, their very existence reinforcing her power. In stark contrast were the nymphs who followed Dionysus, the god of wine and ecstatic release. His procession was a roaring, chaotic celebration. Nymphs known as the Maenads or Bacchae were his most fervent devotees, their orderly nature transformed by his influence into a divine madness. They would dance through the mountainsides, their cries echoing his name, capable of incredible feats of strength and even tearing animals apart in their sacred frenzy. Where Artemis's nymphs represented the disciplined, solitary wild, the Maenads embodied nature's uninhibited, chaotic, and creative fury. They were the living manifestation of the vine's power to break down walls and liberate the spirit. Even Apollo, the god of reason and light, had his sacred groves of laurel trees, a permanent tribute to the nymph Daphne who had escaped him by becoming one. The nymphs in their service gave these gods their texture and their territory, making abstract domains tangible and alive. They were the music in Apollo's lyre, the arrow in Artemis's bow, and the intoxicating vine in Dionysus's cup. The path of a hero is never a straight line. It weaves through mortal cities and divine palaces, but its most transformative moments often occur in the hidden sanctuaries of nymphs. These encounters were not mere romantic detours. They were profound tests of a hero's very purpose, offering both the temptation of eternal bliss and the crucial aid needed to fulfill a destiny. Consider the great Odysseus, king of Ithaca, whose story is defined by his long journey home from the Trojan War. After years of struggle and the loss of his entire crew, he was washed ashore on the idyllic island of Ajaja. This was the domain of the nymph Calypso, a powerful being often described as a daughter of the Titan Atlas. She saved the shipwrecked hero, nursed him back to health, and offered him the ultimate temptation, immortality and eternal youth, if only he would stay with her as her husband. For 7 years, Odysseus lived in a paradise of ease and sensual pleasure. Calypso's cave was beautiful beyond imagining, surrounded by lush forests and sweet-smelling cypress trees, with 4 sacred springs that bubbled with clear water. She was not a captor in chains, but a captor of comfort, offering a life free from the toil and grief that had defined his journey. Yet every day, Odysseus would sit on the shore, staring out at the empty sea, weeping for his home and his mortal wife, Penelope. This is the core of the test. Calypso offered him everything a man could want, except for the one thing that made him who he was, his identity as a king, a husband, and a father. His longing for the struggles of mortal life, for the simple, aged stones of Ithaca, was a force stronger than the promise of godhood. It was only through the direct command of Zeus, sent by the messenger god Hermes, that Calypso, heartbroken but obedient, released him. She even helped him build a raft and stocked it with provisions, a final, bittersweet act of love. This encounter shows that a nymph's power is not just in her beauty, but in the paradise she represents, a sanctuary so perfect it can make a hero forget his own name. To resist it requires a strength that rivals any battle against a monster. Odysseus chose the pain of his own story over the peace of oblivion, and in doing so, he reclaimed his heroic nature. Aeneas, the Trojan hero destined to found Rome, also found his path shaped by a nymph. After his long wanderings from fallen Troy, he arrived on the shores of Italy. It was there that he met the nymph Juturna, a goddess of springs and pools who was intimately connected to that specific land. More crucially, he was guided to the Sibyl of Cumae, a prophetess whose cavern was a place of chthonic power, deeply associated with the local nymphs of the underworld. These spirits provided the sacred water for purification rituals before Aeneas made his terrifying descent into the underworld to speak with his father's ghost. This was not a temptation, but a vital assistance. The nymphs of that place, through their sacred water, made the impossible journey possible. They cleansed him and sanctified him, acting as the gatekeepers of a divine mystery. Their aid was essential, grounding his epic quest in the specific, numinous power of the land he was destined to rule. In both cases, the hero's ultimate success hinged on his interaction with the resident spirit of a place. Would he succumb to the paradise that erased his past, or would he accept the aid that honored his future? The nymph in her grove or her spring held the key to both paths, forcing the hero to confront the deepest question of all: what is a life of glory truly for? Their power was not confined to distant myths. It pulsed through the very soil of ancient Greece, in the quiet, everyday places where people lived and prayed. This deep reverence for the nymphs transformed the landscape into a living temple, marked by sacred spaces known as nymphia. A nymphaeum was not always an elaborate building. More often it was a natural feature, a place that already hummed with their presence. A grotto where water seeped from the rock, a cave shrouded in ferns, a spring bubbling up in a sun-dappled clearing. These were the homes of the nymphs and thus the sites of their worship. People would recognize the sacred energy of such a place and formally dedicate it. They might carve a simple niche into the rock face to hold offerings, or place a small, crudely carved statue of a nymph nearby. In wealthier communities, this could evolve into an elaborate shrine with a fountain and decorative sculptures, but the heart of the cult was always the natural feature itself. The spring was the Naiad, the cave was the Oceanid, and the grove was the Dryad. To enter a nymphaeum was to step directly into a spirit's home. The offerings made here were simple, personal, and heartfelt. A traveler, hoping for safe passage through a mountain pass guarded by an Oceanid, would leave a small cake or a libation of wine at the mouth of her cave. A young woman, seeking the blessing of a Naiad for health and beauty, might offer a lock of her hair or a few drops of fragrant oil poured into the spring. Shepherds would leave a bit of milk or cheese for the Oceanids of the valley, asking them to watch over their flocks. These were not transactions, but acts of relationship, a way of saying, "I see you, I respect your domain, and I ask for your favor." This practice wove the worship of nymphs into the fabric of local folk religion. Every village had its own sacred spring, its own guardian spirit of the nearby woods. These local nymphs had no grand temples in the big cities, but they were often more intimately known and relied upon than the great Olympian gods. They were the deities of the here and now, responsible for the water in the well, the health of the children who played by the stream, and the fertility of the family's small garden. This connection extended right into the home itself. In household cults, the nymphs were honored as protectors of the family and its property. A small altar in the courtyard might be dedicated to them, where the matron of the house would make daily offerings. Before a journey, a family would pour a libation to the nymphs of the road. After a birth, they would be thanked. They were the unseen members of the household, their well-being directly linked to the family's fortune. To neglect them was to risk the water turning foul, the crops failing, or a lingering sickness entering the home. This constant, quiet veneration reveals a world where the divine was immediate and local. The entire Greek countryside was a vast, interconnected web of these sacred spots, each one a testament to a simple, powerful truth: that the land itself was alive, conscious, and deserving of respect. Their worship reveals a profound truth, that nymphs were far more than mythical characters. They were the ancient Greek language for the soul of the wild. Every spring, tree, and mountain was not just an object, but a subject, a being with its own will, mood, and sacred power. This personification of nature is the deepest symbolic layer of these spirits. A nymph is the untamed world given a face and a voice. She embodies nature's dual character, its capacity for both life-giving gentleness and terrifying, indifferent force. The gentle Naiad who offers pure water from her spring is the same spirit who can drown the arrogant traveler who disrespects her home. The joyful Dryad dancing in the sunlight is the same being who withers and cries out in agony when her tree is felled. This is not a contradiction, it is a complete picture of the natural world as the Greeks experienced it, a world that nourishes you one moment and destroys you the next, all according to its own inscrutable laws. The nymphs symbolize this beautiful, necessary danger. They represent a world that was alive, conscious, and had to be approached with reverence, not domination. Think of the careful rituals at a nymph spring, the small offerings left at the mouth of a cave. These were not empty superstitions. They were acts of negotiation with a powerful, sentient force. To pollute a stream was not an environmental mistake. It was a personal insult to the Naiad who was that stream. To cut down an ancient oak without a prayer was not forestry. It was the murder of a hamadryad. This worldview created a powerful ecological ethic born of fear and respect. The wild was not a resource to be managed, but a community of powerful neighbors with whom you had to maintain good relations. Their vitality was the vitality of the world itself. The Greeks saw the divine spark not only in the distant, perfect gods of Olympus, but in the very water they drank and the air they breathed. The nymphs made the environment sacred. They were the life force in the sap, the breath in the wind, the memory in the stone. This animistic perspective, this seeing of spirit in all things, framed humanity's relationship with the earth as one of intimate, respectful interdependence. We were not the masters of nature, but one part of a vast, breathing, conscious whole. So the next time you stand by a forest stream, try to see it through their eyes. That is not just water flowing over rocks, it is the circulating blood of the land, the physical form of a living, watching spirit. The nymphs remind us that the world is not a dead thing to be used, but a living being to be known. That sacred presence in the landscape did not remain hidden in groves and springs. It overflowed into the art of every age. The ancient Greeks captured the essence of nymphs not in massive stone temples, but on the curved surfaces of their everyday pottery. Painted in black and terracotta red, these spirits come alive on wine cups and water jars. You see them dancing in graceful processions across the surface of a crater, their flowing robes and relaxed poses echoing the natural forms of vines and streams. They are often depicted in the midst of their mythic lives, fleeing from a pursuing satyr or presenting a gift to a goddess. These images were not mere decoration, they were a constant reminder of the numinous world intertwined with daily life. A man drinking wine from such a cup would see the Naiads and Dryads circling the vessel, a silent testament to the spirits inhabiting the world just beyond his door. In sculpture, this vision became three-dimensional. Reliefs on temple walls showed nymphs attending Artemis on the hunt, their forms emerging from the marble as if from living rock. They adorned public fountains, their stone likenesses a permanent homage to the invisible Naiad of the water flowing beneath them. The artistic goal was not hyper-realistic portraiture, but the capture of an idea, the graceful, fluid spirit of nature itself. This classical ideal would sleep for centuries, only to be reborn with breathtaking vigor. When the Renaissance rediscovered the myths of antiquity, the nymph underwent a profound transformation. No longer a localized spirit of a specific Greek spring, she became a universal symbol of nature's beauty and mystery. Botticelli painted them as ethereal, almost celestial beings, their forms light and airy. But it was in the later Renaissance and Baroque periods that the nymph truly reclaimed her earthly power. Artists like Titian and Poussin placed these figures in lush, wild landscapes that pulsed with life. The nymphs in these paintings are robust, sensual, and fully at home in their chaotic, verdant surroundings. They are no longer simple attendants, but central protagonists in dramas of desire, conflict, and divine interaction. The focus shifted from their role as place spirits to their role as embodiments of untamed natural force, often contrasted with the ordered world of humanity. This evolution reached its logical conclusion in the neoclassical period. Artists returned to the clean lines and idealized forms of ancient sculpture, but with a new psychological depth. A Nymph by John William Waterhouse is not a distant mythological figure. She is a being of palpable emotion and haunting presence. You can feel the tension in her body as she listens for Hylas's call, or the tragic resignation in her eyes as she becomes the laurel tree. The art moved from depicting what a nymph was to exploring who she was, capturing her inner world of desire, fear, and eternal connection to the wild. This journey from vase to canvas is more than an art history lesson. It is a map of our changing relationship with nature itself, from a world alive with local spirits to a universal concept of sublime, untamable beauty. Their voices echo through the very foundations of Western literature, long before they graced the canvases of Renaissance masters. The journey of nymphs through our stories begins with the first great epic, Homer's Odyssey, where they are not mere decoration but powerful agents who shape the hero's fate. We have already felt the profound temptation of Calypso, whose island paradise offered Odysseus a life of immortality at the cost of his identity. Her role is crucial. She represents the ultimate test of nostalgia, the seductive power of a timeless present that threatens to erase the past and future. But she is not alone in the Homeric world. Just a few years before his encounter with Calypso, Odysseus had to navigate the straits between the monster Scylla and the whirlpool Charybdis. And ancient commentators often identified Charybdis as a once powerful nymph who was transformed into a monster as punishment for flooding lands belonging to Zeus. Even in her monstrous form, she retains that core nymph-like quality, a localized natural force of immense power, now twisted into pure destruction. This establishes a pattern from literature's very start. Nymphs are the personified challenges and blessings of the wild world through which the hero must journey. As we move into the Hellenistic period, the focus shifts. In the idyllic poetry of Theocritus, nymphs become the essential spirits of the pastoral landscape. His shepherds pipe their songs in shaded groves, invoking the local Naiads and Dryads not as epic obstacles, but as the intimate audience for their rustic competitions. The nymphs here are the muses of the countryside, their presence sanctifying the simple, peaceful lives of the herdsmen. This literary evolution mirrors a changing relationship with nature, from a terrifying force to be conquered to a serene refuge to be celebrated. It is in the Roman poet Ovid's Metamorphoses, however, that nymphs find their most defining literary platform. Ovid understood their essence perfectly, the spirit of a place in constant flux. His masterpiece is a tapestry woven with their stories, from Daphne's desperate transformation into the laurel to the tale of Syrinx, another nymph pursued by Pan, who was turned into the reeds from which he then fashioned his panpipes. In Ovid's hands, the nymph becomes the ultimate symbol of transformation itself, her very body translating into the natural feature she embodies, forever sealing the connection between myth and landscape. This classical legacy did not fade, it simply slept, waiting to be rediscovered by the modern imagination. When it awoke, the nymph found a new home in the sprawling realms of fantasy literature. In C.S. Lewis's Narnia, the rivers and trees are alive with spirits that are direct descendants of the Greek nymph, their presence explaining the very magic of that world. J.R.R. Tolkien, a profound scholar of myths, populated Middle-earth with beings like Goldberry, the river woman's daughter, and the Ents, ancient shepherds of the trees whose solemn grandeur carries the echo of the Hamadryads. Tolkien did not copy the myths, he understood their function, and so he created his own races to express the same core idea, that the natural world is conscious and has a voice. In contemporary works like Rick Riordan's novels, the connection is made explicit, with nymphs appearing as vital characters who interact directly with modern demigods, bringing their ancient power into a 21st century context. And in the poetry of our own time, from the dense mythological references of Ezra Pound to the earthy spirituality of Mary Oliver, the nymph endures as a potent metaphor for the wild soul of the world, a reminder of the consciousness we have forgotten in the rocks, the rivers, and the rain. They have never left our stories because we have never ceased needing a language for the living earth. That constant presence in our stories points to a deeper truth, a resonance that lives not just in forests, but within the very architecture of the human mind. To understand why these spirits feel so familiar, we must look inward to the hidden landscapes of our own psyche. From a psychological perspective, the nymph is a powerful archetype, a primordial symbol emerging from what Carl Jung called the collective unconscious. She represents the anima, the feminine principle within every person, but not in a social or domestic sense. This is the wild anima, the untamed, intuitive, and deeply creative force that connects us to the natural world and to our own most primal instincts. She is the spontaneous rush of inspiration that feels like it comes from a source outside yourself, the sudden, clear idea that bubbles up like a hidden spring. When you feel an inexplicable pull to walk in the woods, or a moment of profound clarity while staring at a river, you are hearing the whisper of this inner nymph. She is the bridge to the unconscious, that vast, fertile territory within us that is as mysterious and self-willed as any ancient wilderness. Just as a physical nymph is the soul of a specific place, this psychological archetype is the soul of our own inner nature. She resists control and categorization, and to ignore her or try to suppress her is to risk a kind of spiritual drought, a feeling of being cut off from the source of your own vitality and creativity. Think of the artist who waits for the muse. That muse is not an external being, but the activation of this inner archetype, the Naiad of the imagination whose waters must flow freely for creation to happen. When a person feels stuck, uninspired, or emotionally barren, it is often because this connection has been blocked. The myths of chasing nymphs who constantly transform and escape are not just stories of external pursuit. They are a perfect metaphor for our own attempts to grasp and rationalize the intuitive, fluid processes of our deepest selves. We cannot capture this energy with force, only honor it, create a space for it, and learn to listen for its quiet, essential song. The nymph, in all her forms, ultimately shows us that the wild is not just outside us, it is the very core of what we are. The ancient whispers of the nymphs did not fade with the marble of Greece. They simply found new soil in the modern heart. Today, a vibrant revival of their veneration is underway within neo-pagan, Wiccan, and earth-based spiritual paths, where these spirits are recognized as vital allies for re-enchanting our world. In these contemporary practices, nymphs are not seen as characters from a dead myth, but as living, accessible consciousnesses within the natural elements. A practitioner might not use the ancient Greek names, but the essence remains the same. They honor the lady of the stream, the spirit of the oak, the voice of the mountain. This is a conscious effort to rebuild the sacred relationships that industrialization severed, to look at a forest and see not timber, but a community of beings. Rituals designed to connect with these spirits are profoundly simple and sensory. A seeker might sit beside a river, not just to look at it, but to listen. They might offer a handful of local flowers or a few drops of honey into the water, not as a payment, but as a gesture of friendship and gratitude to the Naiad they feel resides there. This act transforms a simple visit to a park into a communion. The goal is to move beyond intellectual understanding and into a felt, experiential relationship, to feel the Dryad's presence in the rough bark of an old tree and acknowledge her with a touch. This is where nymphology meets elemental magic. In Wiccan traditions, the four classical elements, earth, air, fire, and water, are fundamental to spellwork and ritual. Nymphs are seen as the intelligent, personified forces within the elements of earth and water. When a witch creates a sacred circle and calls upon the spirits of the east for air, they might also invoke the Ori, the breezy nymphs of the air. When they call upon the spirits of the west for water, they are inviting the Naiads and Oceanids to lend their power to the working. This is not abstract, it is a partnership. A ritual for healing might specifically call upon a local water nymph to cleanse and purify. A spell for grounding and stability might seek the aid of an Oread of a nearby hill or a Dryad from a sturdy, deep-rooted tree. The magic works because the practitioner is not manipulating an impersonal force. They are asking for cooperation from a conscious spirit who shares their goal of balance and harmony. This modern practice answers a deep, aching need to belong to the world, not just live on it. It is a way of using ancient maps to navigate a contemporary spiritual hunger, finding the nymphs waiting for us as they always have, in the quiet places where the world still speaks. These ancient archetypes have not remained trapped in marble or parchment. They have shape-shifted once more, finding vibrant new life in the glowing screens of our modern era. In film and television, nymphs are often reimagined through a high fantasy lens, their elemental nature amplified for visual spectacle. Think of the elegant, luminous water spirits in films like Pirates of the Caribbean, or the regal, tree-bound dryads in the Chronicles of Narnia adaptations. These portrayals capture their otherworldly beauty and deep connection to their domain, yet they often simplify their complex personalities into a single role, the guardian of a magical location or a passive victim to be rescued. This contrasts sharply with the raw, unpredictable power of the original myths, where a nymph was just as likely to drown a hero as to save him. The modern screen often trades their dangerous autonomy for a more palatable, ethereal nobility, reflecting our contemporary desire to see nature as a beautiful, untroubled sanctuary rather than a force of immoral power. Yet even here, the core truth remains: they are the physical embodiment of a place, a concept that continues to resonate deeply. It is in the interactive world of video games, however, that nymphs have found their most dynamic modern expression. Games like God of War or Hades cast them as characters you can actually speak with, fight alongside, or even anger. In Hades, the nymphs appear as fully realized personalities with their own stories and desires, from the mournful echo of the nymph echo to the serene power of the goddess Styx. This interactive medium allows players to experience the consequence of their actions directly, much like the ancient Greeks feared the consequence of offending a local spirit. Chopping down a sacred tree in a game might trigger a curse from its resident Dryad, a direct digital echo of the fate that befell anyone who harmed a Hamadryad. Other games like the Elder Scrolls series feature Spriggans, fierce nature spirits who viciously defend their forests, embodying the terrifying defensive fury that ancient myths attributed to angered nymphs. These digital recreations get closer to the original spirit than many films because they restore the element of danger and consequence. They remind us that these are not just pretty faces, they are the conscious, willful protectors of their realms, and they will fight back. Even in animated series and fantasy novels, the archetype evolves to suit new narratives. A character like the river spirit in Spirited Away reflects the ancient belief that a polluted waterway directly affects the health and mood of its resident spirit, turning a benevolent being into a monstrous, stinking sludge creature until it is purified. This is a powerful, modern allegory that perfectly aligns with the ancient understanding of a Naiad. She is not just in the river, she is the river, and our treatment of her physical form directly impacts her spiritual state. These modern reinterpretations, from the silver screen to the gaming console, are not corruptions of the old myths. They are the latest chapter in a story that is thousands of years old. They prove that the human need to personify the wild, to see a face in the waterfall and hear a voice in the forest, is as strong as ever. We are still telling their stories because we still need a language for the living world around us, a way to remember that every landscape has a soul. This popular image of nymphs as merely beautiful young women wandering the woods is a modern fiction that strips them of their immense power. They are not simply nature's decoration, they are its consciousness and its raw, untamed force. A common misconception conflates them with the fairies of Celtic lore, but the difference is foundational. Fairies are often portrayed as a separate magical people living within nature, with their own societies, kings, and queens. A nymph, by contrast, is not a being living in a tree, she is the tree. Her existence is not separate from her domain, it is her domain. This is not a matter of semantics, it is the core of their identity. The ancient sources never describe them as whimsical or tiny. They are life-sized, formidable spirits whose moods dictate the health of the land itself. Another persistent myth is that they are uniformly gentle and benevolent. While they can be gracious to those who honor them, classical myths are filled with stories of their righteous fury. A Naiad whose spring is polluted might curse the water, bringing sickness to a village. An Oceanid whose mountain is disrespected could lead a careless climber astray into a deadly ravine. Their beauty is not a passive trait, it is a lure and a warning, the attractive surface of a deep and potentially dangerous power. They are not waiting to be rescued by heroes or gods. In fact, many myths show them actively shaping the fates of both. Think of Thetis, the Nereid who raised a god and shaped the destiny of a hero, or Metis, the Oceanid whose absorbed wisdom became the foundation of Zeus's rule. Reducing them to mere maidens ignores their role as ancient semi-divine forces who commanded respect and fear. To see a nymph as only a beautiful face is to miss the storm behind the calm water, the strength within the ancient stone, and the wild, untamable soul of the world they so perfectly embody. The forest holds its breath when you approach with the right intention. Connecting with these ancient spirits is less about elaborate ritual and more about a shift in perception, a quieting of the modern mind to hear the older song of the land. It begins with presence. Find a natural space that calls to you, a quiet stream, an ancient tree, a secluded grove. Sit quietly and simply listen. Let the sound of the water or the rustle of leaves become your only focus. This is not a passive act, it is an active offering of your attention. In this state of receptive silence, you can begin to sense the unique personality of the place, the subtle energy that is the nymph herself. You might feel a cool, flowing presence near water, or a deep-rooted strength near an old oak. This initial sensing is the foundation of all further connection, the first step in rebuilding a relationship with the conscious wild. Once you have learned to listen, you can speak through simple, heartfelt offerings. These are not payments for favors, but gifts of relationship, tokens of respect for the spirit who shares her home with you. For a Naiad of a spring or stream, clear water itself is a perfect offering, poured back into her flow with a word of thanks. Honey, a symbol of sweetening and ancient purity, is welcomed by many nymphs, a small drop placed on a stone near the water's edge or at the base of a tree. Shiny, natural objects like a smooth river stone or a seashell can also be given. The key is the intention behind it. As you place your offering, speak your gratitude silently or aloud. Thank the spirit for the clean water, for the shade of the tree, for the beauty of the meadow. This act of giving and thanking acknowledges the nymph as a conscious neighbor, transforming a beautiful landscape into a sacred, relational space. Meditation can become a powerful bridge into their realm. Try a simple visualization as you sit in your chosen spot. Close your eyes and feel your own energy settling, becoming as still as deep earth. Then, in your mind's eye, extend a gentle thread of awareness toward the natural feature before you. If it is a tree, imagine your consciousness touching its bark, not to invade, but to greet. Feel the immense, slow life within it. If it is a stream, imagine your awareness flowing with the water, feeling its journey over stone and root. Do not demand a response or a vision. Simply hold this space of open, respectful connection. You are introducing yourself, Over time, this practiced stillness can open a doorway to more vivid impressions, a fleeting image in your mind, a sudden knowing, or a deep emotional resonance that feels distinctly other. This is the nymph allowing her presence to be known to a respectful guest. The most profound practice is to become a guardian of their domains. The ultimate offering to a nymph is the protection of her home. This moves beyond personal spirituality into tangible action. If you feel a connection to a local stream, your relationship with its Naiad is deepened by helping to keep its banks clean. Your reverence for a Dryad is expressed by advocating for the preservation of an old-growth forest. In our modern world, where nature is so often exploited, this protective stance is perhaps the most powerful ritual of all. It aligns your will with the fundamental will of the spirit, whose very existence is the health of her land. This sacred guardianship completes the circle of connection, transforming esoteric practice into a lived, ethical partnership with the soul of the earth. Their voices have never truly fallen silent, only changed their form. Our journey through the sacred groves and shimmering springs has unmasked a profound truth, that nymphs are far more than mythical maidens. They are the ancient language for a world alive with conscious presence, the living soul of every tree, river, and mountain. We have seen how a hamadryad's life is one with her tree, and how a naiad's mood flows through her sacred water. We have witnessed their immense power, from the cosmic wisdom of the Oceanids to the tragic autonomy of Daphne, who chose to become the wild itself rather than be captured by it. These spirits taught an entire civilization to walk with reverence, to see the divine not only in the distant sky, but in the very water they drank and the air they breathed. Their legacy is a map of a world enchanted, where every landscape held a story and every natural feature had a name and a will. That map is not lost. It has been redrawn in the rituals of modern Earth spirituality, in the archetypes of our collective psyche, and in the fantastical worlds of our films and games. We are still seeking that connection, that conversation with the conscious wild. The nymphs remind us that the boundary between the physical world and the spiritual world is an illusion, that the sacred is here, in the soil under our feet and the rain on our skin. So the next time you feel a sudden hush in an ancient forest or an inexplicable pull toward a quiet stream, pause and listen. You might just hear the echo of an old song. We would love to hear if you have ever felt this presence, if you have your own stories of a place that felt truly alive. Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. And if you are drawn to these deep dives into the hidden corners of esoteric spirituality, subscribe to continue the journey with us. There are always more mysteries to uncover.